You're not losing people. You're reorganizing your reality, and if you can't feel that truth in your bones right now, if part of you is resisting what I just said, that resistance is exactly why you're here. Listen carefully. If people have been walking out of your life like they received an invisible signal you didn't hear, if friendships are dissolving, if family suddenly feels foreign, if even your closest relationships now feel like they're speaking a language you no longer understand, this is not a coincidence. This is not bad luck. And you are not being punished. You're being recalibrated. Right now, in this exact moment, your energetic field is undergoing something most people will never experience in their entire lifetime. Your frequency is shifting so dramatically that the quantum field around you has no choice but to reorganize everything that doesn't match where you're going. And that includes people. See, here's what nobody tells you about the awakening process. Your soul doesn't just evolve in meditation or during spiritual practices. It evolves in real time, in real life, through the painful dissolution of everything that was built for the version of you that no longer exists. And the universe, it's ruthless in its precision. It will remove anyone, anything, any pattern that would keep you locked in a timeline that's already collapsed. I know how this feels. The loneliness, the confusion, waking up wondering if you're losing your mind, if you're pushing people away, if there's something fundamentally broken in you. But what if I told you that this isolation isn't isolation at all? What if it's actually your soul creating sacred space for something so much bigger to enter? Stay with me until the very end, because I'm going to reveal exactly what's happening in your quantum field right now, why this reorganization had to happen, and most importantly, I'm going to show you the one thing you need to understand about the people who left. Because once you see it, you'll never feel abandoned again. Let me ask you something, and I want you to really feel into this question. When was the last time you looked around your life and genuinely recognized it? Not just the people, but the entire energy of your existence. The conversations you're having, the places you're going, the version of yourself you see in the mirror. When was the last time it all felt aligned? If you're struggling to answer that, you're exactly where you need to be right now. Because what you're experiencing isn't depression. It's not social anxiety. It's not you being too sensitive or too intense or any of the labels this world loves to put on people who are waking up. What you're experiencing is something far more profound, something that's been documented across quantum physics, ancient mysticism, and every spiritual tradition that understood consciousness as a living, breathing, reorganizing force. You are shifting timelines. And I don't mean that metaphorically, I mean that literally. Your consciousness is collapsing old probability fields and anchoring into new ones. And when that happens, when your frequency elevates beyond a certain threshold, everything in your external reality that was coded to the old frequency simply cannot exist in the new one. It has to fall away. It has to dissolve. People, places, jobs, identities, all of it. This is what we're going to explore together in this video. Not from a place of spiritual bypassing, not from toxic positivity that tells you to just be grateful. We're going deep. We're going into the quantum mechanics of relationships, the energetic architecture of human connection, and why your soul is currently in the most sacred and most misunderstood phase of awakening, the reorganization. This channel exists as a portal, a space where consciousness, energy, and science converge to explain what's really happening beneath the surface of your spiritual journey. And today, we're addressing one of the most painful yet necessary aspects of that journey. So, if you've been feeling like you're living in a completely different reality than the people around you, if you've been wondering why the universe keeps taking people away just when you thought you finally found your tribe, you're about to understand why. And more than that, you're about to see how this reorganization is actually the universe's most loving act toward the truth of who you are. Here's what's really happening right now, beneath the surface of what you can see. Every person you've ever connected with, every relationship you've ever formed, every friendship, every bond, it wasn't random. It was an energetic contract. And I don't mean that in some abstract, poetic way. I mean that on a quantum level, your energy field and theirs created a resonance pattern, a frequency lock, a mutual agreement to exist within a certain bandwidth of reality together. Think of it like this. Imagine every relationship as a radio station. When you first met that person, both of your frequencies were tuned to the same channel. You could hear each other clearly. The connection felt natural, easy, like you'd known each other forever. That's because energetically you were in harmony. You were broadcasting on compatible wavelengths. But here's what happens during awakening, and this is the part that nobody prepares you for. Your frequency doesn't just shift, it transforms. It jumps octaves. It moves into bandwidths that most of humanity isn't even aware exist yet. And suddenly, without any conscious decision on your part, you're no longer on the same channel. You're transmitting on a frequency they can't tune into anymore. And they're transmitting on one you can no longer receive. It's not that you stopped caring. It's not that they became bad people. It's that the energetic contract that held you together was written for a version of you that no longer exists. Let me go deeper. Every time you have a realization, every time you break through a limiting belief, every time you choose consciousness over conditioning, you're literally altering your quantum signature. Your cells reorganize. Your electromagnetic field expands. Your nervous system recalibrates to hold higher frequencies of light and information. And this isn't metaphysical fluff. This is measurable. Science has shown that our biofield, our heart coherence, our brainwave patterns, all of it shifts when we undergo psychological and spiritual transformation. But most people around you, they're still operating from the same programs they were running 5 years ago, 10 years ago, their entire life. And there's no judgment in that. Everyone awakens in their own timing. But what it means for you is that you're now living in a reality they can't perceive yet. You're seeing connections they can't see. You're feeling energies they've numbed out to. You're asking questions they're terrified to even approach. And so the universe, in its infinite intelligence, begins the reorganization. It starts slowly at first. Maybe a friend stops calling as much. Maybe conversations start feeling forced, surface level, exhausting. Maybe you notice that when you try to share what you're learning, what you're experiencing, they look at you with concern, or worse, with that blank stare that tells you they're not really listening. They're just waiting for you to go back to normal, but you can't go back. That's the thing about awakening. There is no reverse gear. Once you've seen beyond the veil, once you've tasted what it feels like to live in alignment with your soul, the old world becomes unbearable. The small talk becomes suffocating. The surface-level interactions feel like you're betraying your own depth. And this is where it gets painful, because you start to feel crazy. You start to wonder if maybe you're the problem. Maybe you're too intense, too much, too spiritual. Maybe if you just toned it down, kept your realizations to yourself, pretended you still care about the things you used to care about, maybe then they'd stay. But here's the truth, and I need you to really hear this. The people who are meant to walk with you into your new reality will meet you there naturally, without force, without you having to shrink or perform or convince them of anything. They will simply feel the shift in you and recognize it as something their own soul has been searching for. The ones who leave, they're not leaving because you're too much. They're leaving because their soul contract with you is complete. They came into your life to teach you something, to mirror something back to you, to hold space for a version of you that needed to be seen. And now that version has graduated. Now that version has evolved. and their role in your story has reached its natural completion. This is the reorganization. This is the universe clearing out the energetic frequencies that would keep you small, keep you stuck, keep you playing in timelines that have already collapsed. And I know it hurts. I know it feels like loss. But what if I told you that on the other side of this loneliness, there's a version of your life where every single person around you sees you, really sees you, in your full truth? Just ahead, I'm going to show you how this works from a quantum perspective, because once you understand the mechanics of reality itself, you'll never fear this process again. But first, take a breath. Honor what you're feeling. This isn't easy. And anyone who tells you that awakening is all love and light hasn't actually walked this path. The reorganization is messy, it's lonely, it's disorienting, but it's also the most sacred thing your soul will ever do. Now let's talk about what quantum physics has been trying to tell us for over a century, something that mystics have known for thousands of years. Reality is not fixed. It's fluid, it's probability. It's collapsing and reforming based on the frequency of the observer. You are the observer. And right now, you're collapsing into a completely different probability field than the one you were living in before. In quantum mechanics, there's a principle called superposition. It means that all possible versions of your life exist simultaneously until the moment you observe, until the moment your consciousness anchors into one specific timeline. Every choice you make, every belief you hold, every frequency you emit, it's selecting which version of reality you experience. And here's where it gets profound. The people in your life, they exist across multiple timelines too, but they're not always choosing the same timeline you are. In some versions of reality, that friendship continues. In others, it dissolves. In some timelines, that person awakens alongside you. In others, they stay asleep for another decade, another lifetime. You're not losing them. You're splitting into different probability streams. Your consciousness is choosing a path they're not ready to walk yet. Think about it. Haven't you noticed that the conversations feel different now, like you're talking to them from across a glass wall? That's because you are. You're literally occupying different vibrational dimensions. You can still see each other, you can still interact, but the connection, the depth, the resonance, it's gone. Because resonance requires matching frequencies. And you've moved beyond the bandwidth you used to share. Your higher self, the part of you that exists outside of time, the version of your consciousness that can see every timeline simultaneously. It orchestrated this. It knew that in order for you to embody your fullest potential, in order for you to step into the reality where you're living your soul's true purpose, certain energetic ties had to be released. Not because those people are bad, not because you're better than them, but because their presence was keeping you tethered to a version of yourself that was never meant to be permanent. It was a chrysalis, it was training, it was preparation, and now the preparation is complete. Let me give you an example of how this plays out in real life. Maybe you had a best friend, someone you told everything to, years of history, countless memories. And then, one day, you start waking up. You start questioning reality. You start seeing patterns in synchronicities. You start feeling energy in ways you never did before. And naturally, you want to share this with them. You want them to see what you're seeing. But when you try, nothing lands. They change the subject. They make a joke. They look at you with that expression that says, "Are you okay?" And you can feel it, the gap, the distance, not physical but dimensional. You're standing in two different realities, looking at each other through a veil they don't even know exists. So you try harder. You send them videos, articles, books. You try to explain it differently, simpler, more palatable. But the more you try, the more they pull away. And eventually the friendship just fades. Not with a fight, not with drama, just a quiet dissolving like mist in sunlight. And you're left wondering, what did I do wrong? The answer is nothing. You did nothing wrong. You simply evolved into a frequency they're not aligned with yet. And your higher self, seeing the full scope of your journey, knowing that this friendship was starting to drain you, to dim your light, to make you question your own intuition, it gently created distance. It reorganized your reality so that you could continue ascending without the weight of trying to convince someone else to come with you. This is what spiritual maturity looks like. It's understanding that not everyone is meant to witness every chapter of your becoming. Some people are only meant to be in the prologue, some are meant for the middle, and some won't arrive until you've already transformed, until you're standing fully in your power, vibrating at a frequency that naturally calls in those who are ready to meet you there. And here's the quantum truth that changes everything. Every person who left your life is still connected to you in the unified field. You're still entangled on a quantum level, but the version of them you're entangled with now, it's not the version walking around in this physical timeline. It's the higher version of their soul, the one that exists beyond ego, beyond fear, beyond the roles they're playing in this incarnation. On that level, on the level of pure consciousness, there is no separation. There is no loss. There's only love, only support, only recognition that you each chose different paths for the evolution of your individual souls. So when you feel that ache, that grief, that longing for connection, what you're really feeling is the pull between dimensions. You're grieving the version of the relationship that existed in the old timeline, but that timeline has already collapsed. You can't go back to it because it no longer exists in your quantum field. The only direction is forward, into the new timeline, into the reality where you're surrounded by souls who speak your language, who see your light, who don't need you to explain or justify or dim yourself for their comfort. But I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, if this is all true, if this is just frequency and timelines and quantum mechanics, then why does it hurt so much? Why does it feel like I'm being torn apart? And that's exactly what we need to talk about next. Because the pain you're feeling, it's not just emotional, it's cellular. It's your entire system recalibrating to hold a new version of reality. And there's a reason the universe designed it this way. There's a reason this has to hurt before it can heal. Stay with me. We're going deeper. The pain you're feeling right now isn't weakness. It's not you being unable to handle change. What you're experiencing is something called energetic death. And just like physical death, it's the ending of something that once gave you identity, security, a sense of belonging. Every relationship you've ever had was woven into your nervous system, literally. When you spend time with someone consistently, your brainwaves begin to synchronize. Your heart rhythms start to align, mirror neurons fire in patterns that make you feel connected, safe, recognized. This is biology. This is how humans bond. So when those people leave, when those connections dissolve, your nervous system goes into alarm. It interprets this as a threat to survival. Because for most of human history, being cast out from the tribe meant death. Your body doesn't know the difference between literal abandonment and spiritual reorganization. All it knows is, the connections are gone, and I'm alone. This is why awakening feels like grief, because it is grief. You're mourning the death of the person you used to be, the life you used to live, the reality you used to believe in. And you're doing it while simultaneously trying to birth a new version of yourself that doesn't even have a reference point yet. But here's what you need to understand. This pain is the portal, the version of you that's trying to emerge, the one that your higher self has been guiding you toward this entire time. She can't fit into your old life. He can't exist in the same energetic environment that the previous version inhabited. There's literally not enough space. The frequency is too dense, the relationships are too surface, the conversations are too small, so your soul does what it has to do. It creates a void a sacred emptiness, a space so uncomfortable that you have no choice but to either fill it with your truth or run back to the familiar patterns that were killing you slowly. And this is the moment. This exact moment you're in right now. This is where most people turn back. They can't handle the loneliness. They can't sit in the uncertainty. So they reach out to old friends, try to revive dead connections, force themselves back into spaces that no longer fit, just to escape the discomfort of the void. But you, if you're still watching this video, if these words are resonating in your chest like a bell being struck, then you're not most people. You're someone who's willing to sit in the void, to trust the process, to let the reorganization complete itself. So how do you actually align with the version of your soul that's already awake? The version that's waiting for you on the other side of this transition. First, you have to stop fighting the space. Stop trying to fill the loneliness with distractions, with forced connections, with people who don't really see you. The void isn't a punishment, it's a womb. It's where the new you is being formed. And every time you try to escape it, you delay your own birth. Sit with the silence. Let it teach you. Let it show you who you are when there's no one around to reflect back a version of you that they need you to be. This is where you meet your authentic self, not the self that's been performing for approval, not the self that's been shrinking to fit, the real self, the one that's been buried under years of conditioning, people-pleasing, and energetic contracts that were never yours to begin with. Second, start communicating with your higher self intentionally. Not as some distant concept, but as the most intimate relationship you'll ever have. Because that's what it is. Your higher self is you, the version of you that exists outside the illusion of separation, that can see the entire chessboard while you're still moving one piece at a time. Every morning, before you pick up your phone, before you let the world in, take 3 deep breaths and ask, what does the highest version of me need today? And then listen, not with your thinking mind, but with your body, with your intuition, with that knowing that lives beneath language. You'll start to notice things, subtle things, a pull to go somewhere you wouldn't normally go, a resistance to a person you would normally say yes to, a sudden urge to learn something, create something, change something. These aren't random. These are breadcrumbs. Your higher self is guiding you toward the people, places, and experiences that exist on your new timeline. Third, and this is crucial, you have to grieve consciously. Don't bypass the pain with spiritual platitudes. Don't rush yourself to get over it or see the lesson. Some things need to be felt fully before they can be released. Write letters you'll never send. Cry in the shower. Scream into pillows. Let your body discharge the energetic imprints of relationships that are complete. Because if you don't, if you suppress it, if you pretend you're fine when you're not, that energy gets trapped. It becomes density. It becomes resistance. And it will keep attracting the same types of people and patterns until you finally feel what needs to be felt. But here's the beautiful part. The part that makes all of this worth it. On the other side of this grief, on the other side of this void, there's a version of your life that you can't even imagine yet, where the people around you don't just tolerate your depth, they crave it, where your sensitivity isn't a burden, it's a gift, where your intensity isn't too much, it's exactly what's needed. Those people exist, that reality exists, but you can't meet them from where you've been. You can only meet them from where you're going, and where you're going requires you to walk through this fire first, to let everything that's not aligned burn away, to emerge from the ashes as someone who is so authentically themselves that they become a beacon for others who are on the same frequency. Your higher self already knows how this ends. She's already living in the reality where you're fully awake, fully aligned, fully surrounded by your soul family. He's already walked this path and is reaching back through time to guide you forward. All you have to do is trust. Trust the reorganization. Trust the void. Trust that every person who left made space for someone who's actually meant to stay. And now, I want to give you something practical, something you can do today to anchor this understanding into your daily life. Because wisdom without application is just information. And you're not here for information, you're here for transformation. Here's what I want you to do today. Not tomorrow, not when you feel ready. Today, I want you to create what I call a frequency inventory. This is a practice that will show you with absolute clarity who and what in your life is still aligned with where you're going, and who and what is anchored to where you've been. Find a quiet space, turn off your phone, sit with a journal or a piece of paper, and I want you to write down every significant person currently in your life. Friends, family, co-workers, romantic partners, everyone who occupies regular space in your awareness. Now, next to each name, I want you to answer 3 questions. And you have to be brutally honest. This isn't about judgment. This isn't about deciding who's good or bad. This is about frequency alignment. This is about truth. Question 1. After spending time with this person, do I feel expanded or contracted? Do I feel more like myself or less? Do I walk away energized, inspired, seen? Or do I feel drained, confused, like I have to recover from the interaction? Your body knows the answer immediately. Don't overthink it. Just feel into it and write down what comes up. Question 2. Can I share my authentic spiritual journey with this person without feeling judged, dismissed, or like I need to translate myself into a language they can accept? This is critical. Because the people who are meant to walk with you into your new reality won't need you to explain yourself. They'll feel the resonance. They'll recognize the shift in you as something sacred, not something concerning. Question 3. When I imagine my life 5 years from now, living fully aligned with my soul's purpose, thriving in my highest timeline, is this person there? And I don't mean, do I want them to be there? I mean, can you actually feel their presence in that future? Or does the image become blurry, distant, impossible to visualize? Your higher self already knows who belongs in your future. Your intuition has been whispering the answer for months, maybe years. This exercise just gives it permission to speak clearly. Once you've gone through everyone, look at your answers. Really look at them. And here's what you're going to notice. The people who are leaving or have already left are the ones whose answers reveal misalignment and the grief you've been feeling. It's not because you're losing something real. It's because you're finally admitting something you've known all along. But here's the second part of this practice, and this is where it becomes alchemy. For every person on that list who you realize is no longer aligned, I want you to do something radical. I want you to thank them, out loud, or in your mind, or in a letter you'll never send. Thank them for the role they played. Thank them for showing up when you needed them to. Thank them for reflecting back the version of you that was ready to be seen at that time. And then release them, not with bitterness, not with blame, but with love. Visualize the energetic cord between you, that invisible thread that's been keeping you connected. See it glowing, pulsing with all the memories and moments you shared. And then, gently, with reverence, see yourself cutting that cord. Watch as their energy returns to them fully. Watch as your energy returns to you fully. And notice the space that opens up. The lightness, the freedom, the sense that you can finally breathe without carrying the weight of connections that were never meant to be permanent. This is conscious uncoupling on an energetic level. This is how you complete soul contracts with grace instead of drama. This is how you honor what was while making space for what's coming. Now, the third part of this practice. This is the part that anchors your new timeline. I want you to write a description of the people you're calling in, not specific individuals, but the frequency of the connections you're ready for. What does it feel like to be around your soul family? How do they see you? What kinds of conversations do you have? What does the energy in the room feel like when you're all together? Write it in present tense, as if it's already real, because on a quantum level it is. That reality exists right now in a parallel timeline, and you're collapsing the probability field toward it with every word you write, every frequency you emit, every aligned action you take. Read this description every day. Let it become a tuning fork that recalibrates your energy field, and watch what happens. Watch as people start appearing in your life seemingly out of nowhere. Watch as conversations become deeper without effort. Watch as you start attracting friends, mentors, partners who don't just tolerate your awakening. They're living it alongside you. This is how you work with the quantum field. This is how you consciously participate in the reorganization instead of just being a victim of it. And one more thing, one final practice for today. Tonight, before you sleep, place your hand on your heart, close your eyes, and say this to yourself out loud if you can. I am not being abandoned, I am being refined. Every person who leaves creates space for someone who's meant to stay. I trust the intelligence of my soul. I trust the reorganization of my reality. Say it until you feel it, until it moves from your mind into your body, until it becomes a truth that lives in your cells. Because here's what I know about you, even though we've never met. You're not here by accident. You didn't click on this video randomly. You're here because your higher self guided you here. Because somewhere in your quantum field, in the part of you that exists beyond time, you knew you needed to hear this today. You knew you needed permission to let go. You knew you needed someone to tell you that you're not crazy, you're not broken, you're not doing anything wrong. You're just becoming someone that your old world can't contain anymore. And that's not a tragedy, that's a triumph. That's the universe saying, you're ready. Ready to step into the version of your life where you don't have to explain yourself, where you don't have to shrink, where you're surrounded by people who see your light and reflect it back to you, amplified. The reorganization isn't the end of your story. It's the beginning of the chapter you've been waiting your entire life to write. So now, let's close the loop we opened lá no começo. You're not losing people, you're reorganizing your reality. What has been feeling como abandono, rejeição ou fracasso. Na verdade, é uma inteligência muito maior operando por trás da cena. Every ending you've been facing lately, every goodbye you didn't plan, every connection that quietly faded away. All of it was part of a deeper alignment. You are not being punished. You are being positioned into a timeline where your soul can finally breathe, where the weight of old expectations no longer sits on your shoulders, where you don't have to twist yourself into shapes that hurt just to be understood. If you stayed até aqui, there is something in você que já sabe. You didn't come to this planet to live a half-life. You didn't come here to stay surrounded by people who only recognize the edited version of who you are. You came here to remember your own light, your own power, your own truth, and sometimes remembering means releasing. Releasing old identities, old stories, old attachments to people who were never meant to walk with you into every chapter. They were sacred, they were real, and they were temporary. And that doesn't make them menos importantes. It just means their purpose foi cumprido. This video is ending, but your reorganization is just beginning. From today on, every vez que alguém se afasta, every vez que uma conexão se dissolve, instead of asking, what's wrong with me? Try asking, what is my soul making space for? Because that one question shifts you from vítima da realidade para co-criador consciente dela. You are not losing people. You're losing versions of yourself that needed them to feel safe. And as those versions dissolve, something beautiful acontece. You start to attract who ressoar com quem você realmente é, não com quem você fingia ser. So take a breath, feel your heart, and receive this como uma mensagem direta do universo para você. It's safe to let go now. It's safe to trust your path. It's safe to outgrow what no longer matches your frequency. This chapter of loss is not the end of your story. It's the opening scene of the most aligned, honest, and luminous reality you've ever lived. If this message touched something deep inside you, it's because uma parte sua já está pronta para esse próximo nível de consciência. This channel exists exatamente para almas como a sua, que estão atravessando despertares silenciosos, reorganizações invisíveis, noites escuras da alma que quase ninguém ao redor entende. So if you felt seen here, if you felt held, se em algum momento desse vídeo você pensou, finalmente alguém colocou em palavras o que eu vivo, então você não está só. Você encontrou um portal. Subscribe to this channel to continue anchoring this new timeline. Each video you consciously choose to watch is like a fine-tuning of your frequency, reminding you, little by little, of who you truly are. I also want to invite you to energetically anchor this moment in the comments. Write, I choose to trust the reorganization of my reality. Or if you feel it in your heart, share a recent synchronicity or a goodbye that marked your awakening process. When you write, you're not just commenting on a video, you're recording a turning point in the quantum field of your own life. And when this video ends, if you feel the calling, continue this journey with the next content that will appear here on the screen. It's not just another video. See it as the next page of the book your soul has chosen to read in this moment of awakening. This video ends here, but the realignment that began within you today, that's only just beginning. You are ready, and the universe knows it.